we're going to be kicking off this morning with Liz and Eleanor. So Liz is going to share some slides with you, and she's going to be asking Rebecca to do that. So Rebecca's started the recording, so if you're happy to stay on and be visible, that's fantastic. Okay. I've known Liz a little while because she and I used to be trustees together, and I remember seeing a video of Eleanor some way back, and she's grown up hugely since I saw that video. So it's just wonderful to know what's going on in Eleanor's life, and Liz will, I'm sure, bring us up to date because there's a lot going on still. So Liz, I'm going to hand over to you, and I believe Rebecca's going to put your slides up.
I'm here with Eleanor. We've had an eventful morning because we've had our second COVID jab. I'm going to see how she is. She's very happy at the minute, but if she sometimes gets a little bit nervous if I'm going to be talking a lot about her, and she sometimes gets a bit worried. So if I think she's getting a bit uncomfortable, then we'll take her out. But at the moment, she's really pleased to be here and pleased to see everybody. So can I have the next slide, please? So normally when I put this up, nobody can speak Indonesian, but welcome try from Indonesia. I just hope at the end we do your language justice. So I'm going to very quickly just run through Eleanor's story, really. So if I could have the next slide. Eleanor was born in 1995. If you just click to show the barcode, Rebecca. And when she was diagnosed at a month old, and this is her diagnosis, she's quite rare. She has a rare chromosome abnormality, and we were kind of plunged in this world. We didn't really know what was happening, to be honest with you. But very clearly, this is how she was seen. Everybody was talking about her condition. If you go to the next slide, rather than her, you know, and rather than actually Eleanor as an individual. If you go to the next slide. So kind of as a family, we were, so if you press, so obviously we're really interested, we want her well-being is important. You'll see she uses a chair. We need to, obviously we wanted her to go to school and learn things. Her environment's really important. She uses a wheelchair. And then if we can have the next bit, but also having friends and having a good social life. That was all we were interested in. But kind of, if you just see all of those people, when she was a little girl, that's who turned up in her life. There were loads. It was like a barn door in our house. I kept opening up, and who are you, and what's your job, and things. And there was, if you look at those people, there was an awful lot of emphasis on the well-being. I've lost the slides.
I'll just get them back up 1 second.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm very well, Eleanor. How are you?
I am happy.
I am happy, thank you. Are you happy?
No.
I know, because you had your jab, didn't you? It was, but you were very brave.
No, not brave.
Very brave, right. So you can see in the early days, there was an awful lot of people involved in her care and in her life, really, but most of them were to do with her well-being. Now, in those days, because we're talking about kind of 1995, mid-90s, so we haven't had the SEN 1996 Act and things like that. And I was basically told that people like Eleanor went to special schools, and that was it, really. And, you know, I was brought up to respect professions and respect doctors and believe everything that they said. So that's what I did. But it kind of came really clear that that was great for well-being. Great when she was 2. She started at school at 2, 3, 4. But then it just seemed to stop. The curriculum she just seemed to sort of not progress. And the big issue for us, we moved from kind of like a high street to a suburb when she was about 4, so that was 1999. And it became really clear that one of the things she really didn't have in her life was a social life. So if we can have the next slide. So we started to create a social life in a way. I began to realise that in a lot of ways I was the barrier. And so she joined a local choir, you know, and you'll see this lad with the dark hair next to the piano also went to school with her. Chris Simmons, the Hartlepool Youth Choir. I had joined the choir when I first moved to Hartlepool, and he said, well, you know, all you need is an interest in singing. She's got that. And yeah, it was tough the first few rehearsals. She didn't behave like the other 7-year-olds, but she definitely got something out of it. And it sort of showed me and everybody else that, yeah, you have to make reasonable adjustments. You have to accept her, but it works. Next slide. So she was the first young person at the age of 7 to get her own direct payment, which meant that she could employ her personal assistants, and she's had loads over the years. So this lady here, when she was quite young, Frances, was also her childminder, but then we also employed her to take her to choir. You know, this was in the early days of her individual budget, and that we all had a staff outing to Oliver in Newcastle. Next slide. And this meant employing personal assistants meant she could do more mainstream activities, and and again sort of coupled with the almost like stagnation of the curriculum in the special school made me think, right, she can sing, she can look, she's shown that she can learn Rossini, she can learn all sorts of things. So where is she going to develop those skills? Well, it's, you know, it was in a mainstream secondary school, and I love this picture. This little girl behind Eleanor's actually holding her up, but it really proved to me that inclusion could work. Next slide. Yeah, that's her a bit older, going to guides at the back of the bus. Next slide. So I started to plan. We remember that all the people in her life. We had this, we'd been to our local mainstream school. Obviously the environment was right, it was a new school, there were lifts, it was accessible and things like that. They were a bit like put off, but kind of were willing to give us a chance. And I invited the Senko, who was the assistant head, to Eleanor's meeting talking about moving to high school. And do you remember all of those people? There were about 18 people in the room. They all said no or nothing. And I remember looking at this assistant head with slight terror in my eyes, and she also had slight terror in her eyes. And she admits to me 4 years afterwards, like, she was really scared. She thought, what, I've accepted Eleanor to my school, but what am I taking on? So I sat down and I did this plan, and you'll see it's quite big. And I involved some of the friends that she'd made. I involved family members almost every time. I used to carry it around with me, unfold it and say, is there something that we've missed? Can you think about it? And we just looked at aspects, curriculum, the support she would need, friends, after school clubs, her existing relationships, how to maintain those. And then we had another meeting, and the man with the checkbook was there, and they started saying yes. And every time this guy said yes, he was from the local authority, like this is Ned would write it down. And then at the end of that meeting, I folded it up, gave it to the school and said, look, well, this is the plan. Let's see if it works. And I said, but what we need from you is communication. Next slide. Well, it kind of worked like a dream. We were lucky that there was a a student educational psychologist, and she set up a circle of friends for Eleanor, and this really stayed with her through her school career. So you'll see that, you know, Eleanor did have one-to-one support, but you can't see her, and the support that she got from the other young people was immense. I never kind of really, I was always very focused, and we were always very focused really on the curriculum, but I never realised also how much Eleanor gave other people. I always remember once doing a speech like this in a local community centre, and this enormous woman came up to me and she kind of had love and hate tattooed on her knuckles, and she went, "Are you Eleanor's mum?" And I went, "Yes," wondering what was going to happen next, and she flung her arms around me and she said, "If it wasn't for your Eleanor, my daughter would be expelled." And there was this Eleanor gave so much to other people, but also received an awful lot in return. Do you remember that? Remember all those people around you? Yeah? Next slide, please. So she went for prom, like everybody else, and again, you know, picture tells 1,000 words. Very funny story about some of these lads here. You'll have to excuse my language because I normally wouldn't say this word, but some of these lads were off to the local FE college to do some bricklaying, and they said, "Oi, miss, why are we in the spacker bus to go to college?" And you know, as I say, I apologise for that language, but Miss said, "Have you thought, lads, that if Eleanor was with us, we'd need it was a spacker bus because it had a tailgate." And they went, "Oh, that's all right then." You know, these young women, one of whom was a mother at that point, all had lunch with Eleanor. They're actually holding her up in this photograph, but they had lunch every day. She was fully involved in all aspects of school life, and her kind of curriculum became almost like a smorgasbord. She learned French and travel and tourism, and you did Princess Trust and GCSE music. You did all sorts of things, art. And the biggest thing for me, you don't need experts, you need people who make solutions. I always remember talking to the art teacher, and I said, "You know, what does a year 7 pupil do?" And he said, "Well, I concentrate a lot on drawing." And I said, "I'm not sure that Eleanor can hold a pencil." And he went, "That's okay. There's lots of ways that you can express yourself creatively." And it was almost like a light bulb moment. You thought, this is going to be a good placement because there are people who are willing to give her a chance and are willing to adapt their teaching practices to help. And at the end of the day, you know, good teachers are communicators. And when we try and communicate things, I'm a teacher, when we try and communicate things, and we're very much thinking about the audience, we're very much involved, and it's no different from somebody like Eleanor. Just needs as I say, thank you, Alita. We don't need experts, yes, we just need to communicate with each other. Okay, next slide. I'm very conscious of time. Okay, so she then left school. I won't go into it too much detail because I haven't really got the time, but she ended up the local provision. We didn't really want her to go residential. The local provision were full and didn't do flexibility, which actually in a way did us a favour because it meant that, so she ended up being the first young person, one of the first young people in the country, I think, to get an individual budget from education. And this shows a planning meeting. So you can see she's got a range of personal assistants. We're all learning how to create a video on iPad. This is a local provision. We did loads and loads. We used to sort of have lots of planning in the early days. We tried out lots of things. She was homeschooled. You all know about that now. But it was very free. It was a brilliant situation because we were able to try things out. And sometimes the stuff that doesn't work is as valuable as the stuff that does work, because you can reflect on why things aren't working and think, well, actually, that isn't working because of this, this and this. So let's try this, this and this. Next slide. She did some work experience while still at school and loved that. Do you remember being at the at Croston at the primary school? That was lovely, wasn't it?
No. I am happy.
I'm very happy. Are you happy? Are you happy, Eleanor?
No, no.
No. Oh dear. Next slide, please. I was at a conference talking about personal budgets, and they had an artist, like a cartoonist, and I asked him to draw this picture because for me this summed up kind of her post-16 experience. Eleanor's now 25. It's no longer in education. Next slide. I just put that in because obviously she's grown up. That's her baby brother helping her. And then the last slide. Okay, one of the things that I find so lovely about inclusion and about all the people that are in Eleanor's life is how she becomes part of the community, how she makes friends. I was really worried about when she left school. There were 250 people in her year, and I was worried that she was going to lose out on that. But what I found with her personal assistants is she almost becomes part of their circle and part of their family. So one of her personal assistants, Atmi, is originally from Indonesia. And I think one of the things I will always say to everybody is don't ever put limits on people. I'm continually surprised at what Eleanor understands and what she can do. And this includes singing in Indonesian. Atmi, by the way, has now left Eleanor's employment. She is now working in ICU. She's retrained as a nurse, but again, amazing that people can start their careers in care with Eleanor. They become personal assistants, and then they almost become, I'm incredibly proud of Atmi. We're still in contact with her, and again, she has a whole range and very varied life, very active. So I asked at the beginning, does anybody speak Indonesian? Obviously Thai does. I really hope that we can do this song justice, but this is Atmi and Eleanor singing a Thai song, an Indonesian song together. So Rebecca, if you can now play the recording, please.
The sound was playing up earlier, so let me know if you can hear it.
Okay.
Lihat kebunku.
I can hear it.
Ada yang putih. Setiap hari. Mawar. Semuanya
indah. Thank you for listening. We're staying on, so if there's any questions, I'll take it after the other presentations. Okay.
Thank you, Liz. That was fabulous. Thank you, Eleanor, for your.
Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you. Well, that was just an inspiring start. So thank you very much, Liz. And I'm pleased that we're now going to be hearing from Stera Plodja. No, I haven't said that right, have I, Stera? I'm going to have another go at that. Okay. Stera Plodja. Is that better? Is that better? Okay, good. And Hannah, who is Stera's personal assistant, is going to she's going to be looking at Stera, and you're not going to be able to see her because Stera's going to be signing, and so you're going to hear Hannah's voice. You're going to be able to see Stera, and then you're going to be able to hear Hannah, and then they're also going to be showing you some some slides. Okay, it's not slides, sorry, photographs, in much the same way that Liz just did for us. So I'm going to hand over to Stera and Hannah, and Stera's going to start by signing. So thank you very much, Stera.
Says hi, I'm Stera, and I'm from Amsterdam. And her favourite food is pasta. She has a dog called Merlo, and he's a really good boy. And she says, I like meeting people and having friends.
Happy.
And that makes me happy. And she says, I like it when I meet people and they talk to me, and then I'm happy. But I don't. She doesn't like it when all the people don't talk. But she doesn't like it when other people don't talk to her. No, she doesn't like it. It makes her angry because and she likes to have dinner with her friends because she speaks in signs. So should we tell them about going to school?
Cool.
So she said she went to school as a child. She went to the Rainbow School. And what's it in Dutch? The Regenboog. It's called the Regenboog. I'm sure I'm not saying it very well.
Happy.
And she was happy going to the Regenboog because you can meet people, and she could play with the children.
Happy.
She was happy playing with the children. Should we show photos of you playing with the children? So the Regenboog is a mainstream primary school in the Netherlands. And here you are playing with your friends. And again. Okay. But then what happened? The Rainbow School, what did they say?
No.
They said no. They said she had to leave, that she had to go because she doesn't talk. So Stella was sad about this. And what did you do? You went to a different school. And what was it called? The Teal School. And that was a specialist school for children with complex needs. And she said she didn't like that school. It was boring. Why was it boring? Because all the people they didn't talk to me. They didn't talk to her, and she had no friends at that school, so I didn't like it. So should we show the picture of the Teal School? Okay. Here is start at the Teal School in the middle. And then we thought we'd show for comparison the group picture at the Rainbow School. Here's Sarah in the middle. With your friends. Okay. But did you still go to the Rainbow School? Yeah, to see your friends. How many times a week? You went 1 day a week. And how was it?
Good.
It was good? And you had friends. What was your best friend called? Arangster. So you had your best friend Arangster, and you could meet her when you went to that school. And she came to your house. Arangster came round to Stara's house for dinner. And that made her happy. You were happy. You did a dance. You did a dance for the show. So Stara and Arangster made a dance for the school show. And I think you wanted to show the picture of you doing that. There's you and Arangster. So that's the Dutch sign for Arangster's name, A, because it's only Arangster in the Netherlands. And so, what happened next? Mama
Papa.
and Papa, they were fighting so that I could go to school. And did you find a school?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were happy and you were excited. And where was the school? It was in
Me.
Almere. So you had to get a new house and you went to
Go.
So you went to school. So Sarah managed to, Mama and Papa fought for Sarah to get into a mainstream school in Almere. So they moved house. And what did you like about it?
Happy.
You were happy because you had friends and you were playing and you were working with the children
Happy.
and you were happy and you were meeting them. Okay, shall we show you some photos of you playing with the children? And here you're with the children doing shopping, yes. Stunning shopping. And anything else you have to say about the school? Your friends, they came for dinner at your house, so that's important to you, your friends coming for dinner. And sure. And you all cycled,
Oh.
you all cycled home together. Should we show the picture of you all cycling home? Sarah cycling home with her friends. And at the school, you went to school with your friends, and they made a book about Sarah at school. So they made a book about, like a report about Sarah going to school, because this was a pilot project for inclusion in the Netherlands. And Sarah wanted to show you the picture of her with the report all about her experience for inclusion in the Netherlands. And you're very, very proud. Oh, you can't see Sarah signing up, but she's saying that she's proud. Okay. Can you say it then?
She.
And the Queen came to meet
Me.
me at
Oh.
home and school. So the Queen came, let's show the photo. So who's this? This is the Queen.
Me.
The Queen Maxima. So she's Queen in the Netherlands, and she came to meet Sarah to see how Sarah was being included in this pilot project. And here you're showing her a picture on the computer. So then what happened? When you got older and you finished at that school, you wanted to go to school, but they said
No.
They said no. So what did you do? Mama and Papa, we all went to
Go.
school. You had to go to
No.
London. And you came to London,
Oh.
and she came on the boat to London to go to school. And did you go to school?
Yeah.
Where did you go to school? To the Royal
No.
Docks, to the Royal Docks School. Should we show the photo of you in your uniform? Yes. That's me. to get ready to go to school. And so now you are in London. So, what happened next? When I finished school, I wanted to go to college. And what did you want to study? Performing arts.
No.
Says that the colleges said
No.
no. So he says, so I was fighting to go to college. And did you go to college?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy.
Happy. So you went to college and you did performing arts. And so what did you do? Dancing, singing, and drama. And it was good. And she met all the people and she spoke to them in signs. And she had friends.
Happy.
And she was happy. And what did you do at college? Your level 1 performing arts. And you were happy. And you were proud. Should we show them a picture of your level 1? Here's Sarah getting her level 1 performing arts. And what else? Do you have it? Can you tell us anything else about going to college? You say you're in? You did performing arts. And what were you in? You were in? Shows. And you used signs in the shows. She says, and I had to teach signs to my friends. And then all of them, they used signs in the shows. So everybody used signs in the show. Should we show them a photo?
Yeah.
Here's Sarah using. You were in school and you were using signs, yes. And here it's a little bit hard to see because of the lights, but they're taking it in turns. And on the left, they're all signing. And then, yeah. And what else can you tell us? The teacher gave you, what did she give you? She said an award. She gave you an award. Why did she give you that? Because you taught signs to all your friends. And you were very proud. Should we show the photo of you getting the award? And Sarah getting her certificate with the mayor and the trophy. Okay, so about school, do you think it's easy or difficult to be included in mainstream school? Shows? Difficult. And why is it difficult? It says because people say no. People say no. But what makes it easier? What makes it easier to have to have friends and to work with your own PA. So what did having your own PA help you do? It says because I could work in signs, and I could do my homework, and I can make films. So Sarah did her homework by making films of signing, and then she gave it to the teacher.
Happy.
And then she was happy. And What did you like about going to school, being included in school? It makes you happy to use signs and use signs to meet people and have friends. And having friends makes you happy. So after you finished college, what did you do? You stopped college, yeah? And you made a theatre company. And what was your theatre company called? Act Up. So Sarah made her own theatre company called Act Up. Let's show a photo. Here is everybody in Act Up. And what do you do with Act Up? You do shows. And you make scripts. And you use signs. Should we show them a picture of you in a show? And there's you doing a show. And this one's called Outside the Box. So, how do you think being included has helped you in your life now? Using signs, meeting people, and you have friends, and you're happy, and you go. She likes going swimming a lot, and she goes out to the bar with her friends, and she's very happy about that. And she meets them, and she has dinner at her house, and that makes her happy. And she has parties.
Happy.
And you're really happy about parties. So I wanted to show you some pictures. So this is this is her friends. And here you are at the bar. And here is dinner at my house. And here, having a party. And where's the party?
Oh.
At your home, yeah. And she was having dinner at her house. She goes, bye. She's done. She's done telling you bye.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sarah and Hannah. What an amazing story. And we've got some lovely comments in the chats about how amazing you are, Sarah, and what an inspiration you are. And thank you for sharing and teaching other people and showing what's possible. So some lovely, lovely comments for you, Sarah. Okay. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, so lots and lots of really positive comments there for you. Okay, so I'm sure there are some questions already have popped up in the chat, but I think rather than take them just now, if that's okay with you, Sarah, we'll wait until we've heard from Ingrid and possibly from Wilf, and then we'll let people ask you questions. Is that going to be all right? Is that okay? Fab. Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're now going to hear from our third guest speaker, Ingrid, who is going to be talking to you about her son's experience going through mainstream education. And Ingrid may or may not be joined by Wilf, but that'll depend on how Wilf's feeling today. So may I hand over to you, Ingrid, and thank you very much to everybody so far. So.
Well, hello. I've asked Wilf to come, but he he's decided he doesn't want to, so maybe he'll come in, but maybe he won't. But here's a lovely picture of Wilf. I think the first thing I'd like to say about inclusion is that it's a two-way process. And as Liz said earlier, the number of parents who Wilf's been educated alongside who've said it's been great and it's been really good for their children as well. And many of those children have gone on to work in education themselves. One of them is a volunteer prisoner mentor after he's finished work. And I just wonder how much did their inclusive education influence them. And another thing I've been wondering recently, and I think maybe lots of us have been, is if the people who signed blanket DNAR orders recently, would they have been able to do that if they had been inclusively educated, if they had known people, really known fellow pupils with additional needs? Would they have been able to look at people they're signing DNARs on and see them as other? I just think maybe not. Anyway, where's Wilf? Wilf is 27, he's autistic and has significant learning disabilities, and he's got a brother called Charlie who's 26 and works in local government. They were educated together, so they went to the same primary school and the same secondary school and the same nursery school. And here's a photo of them at primary school. Oh, I have completely missed out the fact that I wanted to say, the first thing I wanted to say about Wilf was he's a barista. And I just thought I would say it without, and I didn't write it down. So Wilf is a barista. That's the most important thing at the moment. Wilf is a barista and he's on furlough at the moment. He's 27 and he is autistic with learning disabilities. And my boys were educated together. So here they are at primary school and here they are at secondary school. 25 years ago, I just assumed that Wilf would have an inclusive education because the Education Act hadn't been that long beforehand, and I just thought he would have a choice of schools to go, mainstream schools to go to, because I was absolutely sure I didn't want him to go to special school because he's not going to grow up and go to special society. So, and I also, I've heard this word used earlier in the conference and I completely agree with it. I did not want my son to be segregated. And another thing that influenced my decision was that back in the 80s, I worked in a long-term hospital a long-stay hospital for people with learning disabilities, which was a Victorian building, and it was run with Victorian attitudes. And I just thought, you're much, much better off, safer, if you live an included life. Anyway, as I said, I was surprised there was no choice of schools to go to, but luckily for us, just the year that Wilf was ready to go to primary school, Hackney introduced an inclusive system where for pupils, autistic pupils with in a mainstream school that had a resource base. It was called the Autistic Resource Base, and Wilf was in the first year group to start in the first school in Hackney, and it was a huge success. And I think success came for many, many reasons, but a list of them is that the head was in favour, the governors supported it, and there was good local authority support. And the speaker yesterday said, you know, there's no point in fighting about a legal aspect unless you've got the school on side, and the school were on side, so that was a great start. And the school was well resourced. There was great staff, the teachers who had experience of working with autism. There was a speech and language therapist, a nursery nurse, a team of excellent TAs and midday meal supervisors. But the key thing was the other pupils. They were critical and they made such, they were just marvellous. They gave Wilf so much. And Wilf was able to be in the mainstream classroom most of the time. He had TA support all the time, lunch and break a break as well, because that's a bit of a chaotic time. But it was it worked most of the time. He was in his classroom, and then he was able to retreat to the base when he was overwhelmed, which happens from time to time. We do have moments of quite distressed behaviour, and it's good to have somewhere quiet to go to. But also the base was used for something that they called reverse integration, and it worked brilliantly because they were able to have small group work where just a handful of children from Wilf's class would join him and they'd focus on something, and it was a win-win situation because those children got a little bit of extra support, and Wilf didn't have the intense teaching of one-to-one teaching, which he doesn't like, but he was quite happy in a group of 3 or 4 to take part in lots of activities. So that worked brilliantly. And also he was able to model his behaviour appropriately in lessons and in playtime and at lunchtime. And I do remember going to the school once and just seeing there was a little argument in the classroom over who got the responsibility to take Wilf down to lunch, and it was lovely. Another thing that I think helped was because it was a local school, I was able to drop off and pick up the boys. So I would, well, as work permitted, but I was able to hang around in the playground with the other mums and again be ordinary. And Wilf didn't go to school on the pathologising yellow bus, which would have marked him out as other. And we've heard buses mentioned, but I'm so keen for things to be ordinary. Anyway, also, as well as the school being great for the boys, it was good for us as a family because our boys were educated together and perceived one another as equal, and I think that's very important, that how the sibling is perceived is helps. Anyway, another aspect of the success of Wilf's inclusive education was that he had lots of enduring friendships. There's the picture on where Wilf's wearing a mauve top is his friend Junior from primary school, and who's still a friend, and that picture was taken about 10 years ago. But Junior, if you've heard me speak before, when Junior passed his driving test, the first person he drove around to show off to was Wilf, which was a lovely moment. And then Wilf there's a picture of Wilf speaking at an NDTi conference a little while ago with friends from secondary school, so who've been keen to come and talk and spread the word how they felt that an inclusive education was a good thing for everyone. Another thing about Wilf being well known is that he doesn't have to be friends with lots and lots of people, but it's good when he bumps into people he knows when he's out and about. You know, a fist bump and a recognition is great, and he met. I was hoping he'd join us so he could tell you how happy he was to bump into a schoolmate just this week. And the other thing is that Wilf goes out with a series of different support workers, and what I like is that they don't know who they're going to run into at any time. And I know, because I don't always know what's going on, I just know that there's 1,000 other eyes out there who've got another eye on Wilf. So I think he's safer. And going back to saying that working in the sort of Victorian asylum of the 1980s, I think the safest place you can be is in the mainstream where everyone can see you. Now, I know some people are concerned about bullying in mainstream, and I can say that Wilf has never, ever been bullied. And at one point I decided to discuss this with Junior, who's in the white top talking to Wilf, and he was absolutely affronted that the suggestion that anyone at their school would have bullied Wilf. I wish I had been able to take that reaction. Although we did have one small bullying incident, and that was actually Charlie got duffed up a bit when his big brother wasn't in the playground because he'd gone on to secondary school. So I don't know if that if that counts as relevant. Anyway, on to secondary school, and we were very, very lucky because we lived next door to the most failing school in London that got shut down and turned into a flagship academy. And it was due to open the very same year that Wilf was due to start secondary school. So I wrote to the head, I wrote to the Board of Governors, wrote 9 letters, and just said what an excellent model of how inclusion had worked so well at the primary school, and if they were a new school and an academy, I expected them to follow modern ideas, and that's all that happened. And they opened a resource provision for children with autistic children with 3 pupils per year group, and again it was a huge success for the same reasons. That they had a great staff team, a fabulous Senko, the other pupils were supportive and have become friends. It was an academy, and it was a very, very strict, but that sort of boot camp mentality actually suited Wilf, because there was no mucking about in between lessons. Line up meant line up, so there wasn't any vague or unclear moments, which suits Wilf very well. Also, the school were very flexible, and Wilf didn't study a second language. His timetable was changed, so he got PE every day, so he was able to run off loads of excess energy, which helped him focus in class. And something that I should have said about primary school that I need to say worked well at primary school, well at secondary school, was having a great homeschool relationship. That homeschool book made everything much, much easier. So I knew what had happened and they knew what had happened, because sometimes if we'd had a dreadful morning, it was a good idea for Wilf to spend the first lesson of the day in the resource base just recalibrating and then joining lessons. So the homeschool relationship was key. And we've had talk about academies earlier in the conference, and I just want to say, if Sir Michael Wilshaw can run an academy that includes children, that is inclusive, then all academies can. And also on Monday I heard academies being criticised as one of the reasons that inclusion has diminished. And I would say, don't take the argument to the individual schools. You need to look at winning the war, not the battle, and the argument and the accountability should be at a much higher level. I heard, not at this conference, but in the past, I've heard people talking about, oh, I won the fight, I got my child into the same school that Wilf had gone, and everybody was like, yeah, we got the academy to take another child. And I was just thinking, you're winning the battle, but you're losing the war, because there are lots of other secondary schools in the borough. All the schools should be inclusive, rather than focusing on the one school that's doing it. Why aren't people focusing on all the schools that aren't? So I would like to see a little less academy knocking on that point. And also, the thing that worked at the schools was that there were 3 pupils per year group, so that kind of balance seemed to work. And I just felt the more that ratio got pushed and other schools higher, it diluted the success of the inclusion. And I would again say that the pressure should have come from higher for all schools to be inclusive, but that's my personal thought. Now, after secondary school, Wilf, and I'm sorry I didn't think to put up a prom picture like everybody else has, and they're lovely. So if I do this again, I'll add one with Wilf. Wilf went on to a 6th form special school. I needed to be sure that I hadn't ruled out special school out of my own prejudice, but it wasn't a success for him. Recently we were in that part of London and we walked past the school, and Wilf told me, which he hadn't told me at the time, he said, I was scared when I was there. And I think I think he was, because he wasn't surrounded by calm children. He was surrounded by other pupils that were showing distressed behaviour, which distressed him. And I just again felt how good it had been for him to be inclusively educated, because he got to model a lot on ordinary children. Anyway, after that, we went on to a couple of FE colleges, and they were good, but he didn't mix as well as he had done at school, because they seemed to be more like enclaves within the education colleges, and I was always a bit disappointed that they didn't. The courses were the courses, you know, it's like what we're doing from September to July. There wasn't a spread out to how do we prepare for adulthood? And I always felt that was a lack there. And also there's that whole thing about further education, college, full-time courses are only 3 days. So that needs to be, it is a difficult thing. But as we've reached 18, the things that helped us were that we had a person-centred planning meeting to look at transition, but it was an absolutely fabulous day. And everybody who's ever done a path will know it's just fantastic, where you just start with dreams and aspirations, where do we want to be? And then go back to how we get there and do it in the phases. I'm sorry I haven't got a photograph set up to put up to show how well it was. And it was that we had always thought that Wilf should be working as absolutely. I didn't want Wilf to go down a day centre line. I wanted Wilf to be at work, same as his brother, the same aspirations. And it was a light bulb opened during that meeting, because they were saying, well, use those 2 days when you're not at further college to start that, because I kind of thought, all right, we finish school education and then work, but we were able to combine that. So we did loads of voluntary work at a cattery, stables, city farm. So those 2 days were very constructive. So that was came to us because of the planning meeting. And running up to the planning meeting, I was asked to do a couple of exercises. I think this is Will. Hello, come and say hello to everyone. Come on, come sit down. If people could put their cameras on, then Will can come and say hello to you.
Hello.
Hello, look, that's Liz and Eleanor, and that's Carol. If anybody else could pop their camera up, that would be lovely. That's Rebecca. Come and sit down.
Hi, Will.
Sit down, then you can say hello to everybody who wants to hear about school. Sit down. There we are. If you sit down, there we are. People can put their cameras up and I can see a screen of people's cameras. That would be absolutely excellent.
I'll take the slides now for a second.
Hi, Will.
Okay.
Hi, Will. Hi, Will.
Were you happy when you were at Whitmore primary school? Did you like it? Well, look at all these people. Tell them what your job is.
Who can't walk?
Lizzie's daughter Eleanor is using a wheelchair. Right. Say hello, Eleanor.
Hi, Eleanor.
Sit, wave. Okay. You see Julie's waving.
Hi, Will.
Yeah. Melody's waving. Look, there's Linda. There's Rebecca. People want to know what your job is. What's your job now, Wilf? I am
I'm working at the town.
And what's your job in the CAF? You are a...
No!
Well, you're on furlough at the moment.
What furlough?
When you don't have to go to work because of the pandemic, because of the virus. Now, do you want to tell everybody about Whitmore? Were you a happy boy at primary school?
Yes.
And what about Mossbourne? Did you like going to Mossbourne? To do lots of work, didn't you?
Look at me.
Well, look at the people. These are all people who want to hear about you going to school.
Well, I hate 2022. Time goes forward and endings.
I know it worries you about what's happening. Okay, you're going to go out for a pizza with Greg. Is he here?
Yeah.
Right, do you want to go and see Greg? And I'll carry on talking, yeah? Okay, say goodbye to everyone. Right, no, don't unplug me. All right, okay. All
I
right.
hate.
I will.
I hate.
I
I
will.
hate time goes forward next year and ending.
We all hate that. It's always worrying when things are vague, but I think things will be okay again soon. All right. See you later. Have a nice time. Bye. Oh yeah, there's so anyway, going back to the plan, that was fantastic, and it helped focus us. And so Wilf has then went on after college to have a supported employment internship, and that was excellent because he was learning job skills at work, and it's been a huge success, and he's still working there. And another exercise that I was given to work out was planning my perfect week. It sounds so easy, but it wasn't really. But once I sort of got, yeah, how do we really want the week to be? It was a great tool for planning things out and helped us a lot. And another exercise I was asked to do was important to and important for, which sounds simple and it wasn't. I found it really difficult. But once I'd got the idea of it, it was a brilliant, helpful tool, and I think we used that mainly to write Wilf's then education, health and care plan. But you know, this all happened when Wilf was about 18. So what I'm very happy about is that Wilf, I think his inclusive education enabled Wilf to perceive himself as an ordinary, equal person, as his brother does. Hello, Wilf.
Mum, look at me.
Yeah.
I hate time goes forward next year and endings.
I know, because they're vague and it worries you. Okay, well, I'm still talking to everyone. Can I come back to you? Wilf,
No more V words.
No more vague words. Okay. Wilf, and I think what I'm going to wind up with just my last couple of sentences.
More.
Wilf.
Just the right one. I hate time goes forward next year and endings.
Wilf gets worried about time going forward, endings and next year. Is it because you don't know what's happening?
Yes.
Is it because it's too unclear? Well, we'll write down on the calendar what's happening when, and then you'll feel a bit better. Okay? Right, so bye. So Wilf perceives himself as an ordinary, equal young man, as his brother does. And I have to just say a couple more things, that obviously it hasn't all been smooth running, and we've had episodes when Wilf's behaviour's been really distressed and hard to deal with, but with the support of the schools, we've got through it. It hasn't been right. Wilf's behaving in a way that's difficult for other pupils. It's been, how can we sort this out? And it's been the can-do attitude of inclusion that's been absolutely wonderful. And I have to say, we didn't see health. We've hardly ever been involved with health, and social services only really became relevant in our lives when Wilf was 18. And I would like to see people from social services and people from health much more involved with inclusion, because it's not just an education issue. And thank you everyone for listening to us. And I'd like to leave with a picture of Wilf presiding over the cafe menu. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ingrid. That another wonderful story, and so lovely to see Wilf. And yeah, I gather he's got quite a busy day. So yeah, thank you very much. And I'm sure now we're going to have some questions for all of you, for Liz and for Sarah and for you, Ingrid. So if you'd like to unmute yourself and ask the question directly, that would be fine. If not, we can start with the certainly one question that's popped up in the chat that we could start with, but people may be burning to ask questions. So is there anybody who wants to kick off?
Liz, I see that you hated the bus too.
I managed to ditch it, and I think one of the things that we haven't really touched on is that special and being special. And I've called Eleanor's sort of journeys out of isolation because it was a very gradual process for us, and one of it was walking to school. And one of the things that really kind of impressed me because Eleanor was in special school up to the age of 11. So all that, it took about 2 years of planning and negotiation getting her into mainstream school. But you know, all of those mums at the school gate, I used basically my son's primary school was next door to Eleanor's special school. And so I was taught, you know, I was chatting about what we were planning, and everyone was supportive of it. And I think some of this myth almost about you've almost got to take a step in, and it kind of works. But for me, it's about communication. And I think what depressed me about the school bus was we had a lad with learning difficulties who was in his 40s, who kind of lived a few doors away from us, and he was still getting the bloody bus in his 40s, being taken somewhere and coming back. And I thought, is that it? Is this going to be Eleanor's life, being put on a bus, taken somewhere with the same people and taken back again? And it just seemed like wrong to me. And again, I really was touched by both Sterry and Will's story and with Eleanor about actual kids. And you know, you can't just plonk people together and expect everybody to get on. There has to be some communication. When you know, Eleanor doesn't use words and she doesn't sign, so but she does communicate. You know when she's happy and you know when she's not happy, and people get that, but it needs handling sometimes. But yeah, I hated that school bus. I was so glad to get rid of it.
Oh, Ingrid, go ahead. Go ahead.
I went when Trish was talking yesterday about schools where you've got a mainstream and a special school next door. I went to a school that shared a playing field with a special school, and we absolutely never ever integrated at all. And we all used to leave school in our navy blue uniforms and our white shirts. And I realised that some of the girls from the special school were making their way home. They were allowed to make their way home at the same time as us, but they weren't required to wear uniform. But I noticed they all started to wear navy skirts and uniforms to fit in, to not be marked out as other. And you know, I look back now and I just think, oh, what missed opportunities there.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, it's a good comment. There was a question actually for Stera, which was about your report, Stera. People are asking if it's possible to get hold of it.
She says it was in Amsterdam.
Yes. Is it in Dutch?
Yeah, but I think you'd have to ask Sarah's parents about that. But yeah, it's in Dutch in the Netherlands. Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you. Unless the person asking might be able to speak Dutch, then I shouldn't make assumptions, should I? So yes, I guess we can put you in touch if you do want to have access to it. We also, I think I've kind of touched on quite a lot of things about the importance of taking those first steps, but also some of the barriers that were put in the way, and initially people perhaps being rebuffed, but actually that perseverance is coming out, isn't it? So I didn't know if anybody wanted to ask any of our speakers about, you know, how they managed to kind of push even though they were getting rebuffed. So I'm interested in that, but so I could ask the question, what kept you going? What kept you going?
I was very fortunate in that I was a trade union work-based steward, so I'd done a lot of I'd been trained in negotiation techniques by the TUC, and one of the things I've done an awful lot of work with parents and also with disabled people about it. And you've got to have a goal. You've got to have somewhere that you want to go. you've got to almost like forgive. I find an awful lot of people, yes, you need to centre where you are, but don't dwell on everything that's wrong. Head to where you want to be. And as long as you're kind of moving in that direction, however long it takes, if you're getting there, that's great. And I also think this idea of allies, I was amazed. Do you remember me saying all of those people said no? Well, actually, some of them said nothing, but they were almost frightened to say yes. But in private, they said yes. And it was finding the people who were saying yes, who could help, not wasting too much time arguing with people who are saying no, because some people will say no all the time. I still meet them, and you just think, well, okay, that's your, that's your opinion, and I respect that, but actually I'm going this way. So yeah, I think we have I wish sometimes everybody could get trained in negotiation techniques, because I definitely dug into my trade union background to learn and use those skills all the time. You have to smile as well. Find your allies.
Find your allies. Thank you. Thank you. Ingrid, did you want to come back on that, or Stella?
We were very lucky because we lived in an innovative borough that was working, start looking to include students, pupils. So we were in the right place at the right time. And again, the academy program was new, and we lived next door to the academy, and I really had to write one letter and post it to 9 people. That was it. It's about, landing on fertile soil.
You were lucky then, I think, weren't you, Ingrid, in that regard?
Well, but also, I was quite sure there was no way my son was going to a special school under any circumstances, because as soon as you're marked other, you're never going to be equal.
Fantastic, thank you. That's a pithy little quote. I think we're going to keep that one for. Thank you.
If you make
Sarah,
this question,
did you want to say anything?
If you ask Sarah a more direct question or make it a little bit easier to understand, then that would work.
Okay.
Mama.
Sarah, when people said no, what helped you to keep pushing? Until they said yes?
When people said no, what helped you? You wanted to meet people. She wanted to meet people, so that helps her.
Okay, fantastic. So you had an idea of where you wanted to go to.
And she wants to have friends.
Fantastic, thank you. Julie, you had your hand up first, I think.
I did, thank you. I think that Liz kind of answered this a little bit, but I suppose I was thinking, we're coming to the end of our week now. Sorry if people don't know who I am. I'm Julie Pointer. I work for NDTi. And I know on Monday I opened the festival with some pretty gloomy figures around where we're at in relation to inclusion. So my question to you all is, if there's just one thing that you think we could do, what might that be? And Stera, one thing we could do to make inclusion happen.
I think Stera's about to answer. What could make it easier? Having her PA with her.
Thank you. I've already talked about how we could clone you, Hannah. I've had that conversation with Linda before. Thank you, Sarah. And I wonder, Ingrid and Liz and Eleanor, one thing we could do if we took one thing away, what would it be?
For me, one of the things that I think is lacking at the minute, that was present when Eleanor went to school, there was a governmental policy of inclusion, and now there isn't. And I find the current education policy incredibly confusing, really confusing. It's if the lockdown has shown us anything, it's just shown us how fragmented and disjointed our current education policy is. Now, again, I'm very lucky that I live the town where I live, we have no private schools. They tend to very much look at quite an inclusive, you're sort of, you know, they're very sort of problem solving, they're very family centred, they're very community centred. My worry is that some of the influences on the current government come from a very privileged, very, you know, it's your Rosa Monckton, very much into segregated education. I mean, they segregate their non-disabled children, so why should they do anything different to their disabled children? But it's that lack of a voice, I think, and a lack of a coherent policy that actually reinforces that people have a right to inclusive education. I mean, it was really difficult when the academies first came in because they went back to a 1996 definition of SEN, which started to exclude people. That then got reversed in 2014, so they've gone back to the 2006 definition. But it doesn't help, you know, you've got to really know your rights to push, rather than, as I say, if there was the tone from the top that actually, you know, I was really depressed up here because we've opened up a new regional special school and it's like, it feels like we're just going backwards. So the one thing I would change is a clear vision at governmental level.
Brilliant, thanks Liz. That's, I mean, exactly where we're coming from. We feel we need a national inclusion strategy. So absolutely hear what you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry I don't know your first name, but Jay Rowland, would you like to ask your question?
Hi, no, I just, you know, obviously echoing what you say there, there's more special schools opening in my area as well, and it just makes me feel really sad. But I think also those voices, those head teachers, you know, Ingrid, the teachers, and Liz, they had the fear, but they were willing to try. But then it's the after voice from those people to reassure, you know, other schools, try it. It's worked really well, and it's not just benefited one pupil, which is what you might think. You're putting all this effort in for one pupil. It's not. It's about, you know, it's the whole school that gets the benefit. So it's grabbing those voices and taking those forward as well, I think, to get rid of that fear that's in the head teachers or you know, the teachers, and, you know, because that's got, it's not just from parents, it's you know, kind of grabbing hold of that really somehow and getting that out there as well. I think that'd be really important and really help.
Okay. Thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands up. Does anybody else have any questions? Linda.
Hi. We heard from both Wilf and Stera about what their lives are like now. So we heard about Wilf's job and we heard about Stera's theatre company. I know this year, as Wilf has just reminded us, this year's been horrendous, but it'd be really good to hear about Eleanor's life now. I know several years ago, Eleanor worked with us a bit, and at that stage she had a really full week. So it'd be good to hear about pre-lockdown, what Eleanor's week was like.
Yeah, she has a full weeks of activity. Swimming is always a problem here. Oh God, honestly, sometimes you can only access swimming if you belong to a building, really. But so she has swimming 3 times a week. Obviously, not at the minute. She also attends like Stella, she really likes drama. So she attends an inclusive theatre company twice a week. She has a range of PAs who do various activities with her. It also includes laughter yoga. But actually, one of the things that I think that lockdown has impressed upon us is, do you remember that picture of the meeting with everybody? We used to do that quite regularly and think of different activities and different jobs that Eleanor could do. And we want to do that again because feeling that actually there's more that she could do within the community. And again, just reinforcing what Sarah was saying about the importance of personal assistants. One of the good things about personal assistants is that they live in the community. They have connections to the community. So actually it's sometimes, you know, a personal assistant will casually meet somebody in the fish shop or something, and then they're saying, oh, I'm a manager of an old people's home. Oh yeah, laughter yoga might be really good there. So sometimes it's about not just seeing what happens as well. So actually we are going back to the drawing board after lockdown, and sort of wanted to do some planning and kickstart it a little bit. But yeah, she's as I say, she has a full 5 days a week activity based around things that she enjoys. Eleanor really enjoys people. Some of the things she needs, exercise as well. I loved it with her. Will said, yeah, she does use a chair. It was very observant. It was lovely. So exercise and being able to exercise her limbs is really important. If anybody wants to check out Mix It, they've just brought out a new video based on Your Way. I'm on my way. The Proclaimers song, and Eleanor's right at the end. You can hear her right at the end singing. What else do you do, Eleanor? What do you do?
I'm on the way.
I'm on my way.
Ha 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 ha.
Again.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah. There you are. She sang it. Seamless. Thanks, Linda.
Thank you. Yvonne. You're muted at the moment, Yvonne.
Hello, I am Sarah's mum. I just wanted to say one thing what Liz said, addition to it, because yes, indeed, PAs are very important, but I want to emphasize how important it is that they are coming with them to school and in the class, because before Sarah had her own PA in school, it was the PAs or the assistants, because it were not PAs, of course, it were the assistants from the school, from the authority. And at 3 o'clock they go home. And if you have luck, then the next day it is another. They share it between a few assistants. So there is no continuity. And when Sarah comes home, and I said, there is nothing. But with her own PA, when they are with her all day, they can help making notes, making the films. That's also a battle, but it is worthwhile, because only it is a reasonable adjustment, because only via films it is possible to for her to do the homework. And then they come home and it is still the same PA. So then for the first time they know what the homework is for the other students. And they indeed can then make the homework and do the assignments. And from the moment onwards that Sarah could have her own PAs with her in the school, it made 100% difference. And all the people who are now in mainstream school, it is a start, it is good, but it's definitely not optimal. Certainly not when they have some more complicated needs or communication needs. There is no, it stops when the school goes out, and then it doesn't work. They can just attend to school, but they will never be a completely valued participant. That is what I wanted to add.
Oh, thank you, Yvonne. That's really helpful. And Liz just commented that she was allowed to be part of the interview panel for the assistance for Eleanor, and that seems like a good way forward too. So
yeah, I mean, again, where I live is quite a small town, and it was really interesting with Eleanor being the first child to have her own personal assistant, because there's a lot of informal, casual communication, and so a lot of the inclusion assistants, so the person who would work one-to-one with Eleanor at school, some of them also became personal assistants in after school, so we did get that sort of continuity. And indeed, a lot of other people then started employing PAs, and a lot of teaching assistants or inclusion assistants started working as PAs because they wanted to kind of carry that on. So I think I agree with you, Yvonne. I think ensuring that you get that person who knows the person really well, especially, you know, with communication, and it's just, I mean, for example, we were able to use some of her direct payment, which meant that Eleanor could go on the school trip to Paris. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's just that if you've got that attitude and that way of thinking, that value, then actually things start becoming easier. It's where you really don't have that, or you really don't believe in it, that it starts having problems.
Thank you. Thanks. Elita.
I wanted to ask both Yvonne and Liz. I know you touched on a little bit, Liz, about your experience with the direct payments process, but it'd be really interesting to get your view, because it sounds like Eleanor had a direct payments with social care in children's as well. Am I right? And what did that look like when, how old is Eleanor now?
So Eleanor's now 25.
Okay. So what was that like with the move from children's to adults in terms of the direct payments process?
Yeah, I mean, she also has health funding as well with Eleanor. So
okay, from
the age of 7, she got her first direct payment that was wholly from social services for after school activities. Then when she left school, she had an individual budget that was mainly funded through an education income stream, and then some social services. And then when she was about 18, health came on board. So I think it was about, anyway, health came on board. And then when she was 23, maybe, education left, but health then filled the gap for education. And basically we have joint commissioning here. So the money all went into one pot and then was distributed to us for us to administer through a direct payment. And I employ a local accounts firm to do the kind of payroll and things like that. We also employed a support planner in the early days as well, just to kind of set it up. So that's how it works. And again, I'm very, very lucky. Hartlepool was one of the pilots for the 2014, the Education, Health and Care Plan, and they really do believe in the spirit of what direct payments are. And again, I get very angry, to be honest with you, when I hear some of the barriers that are being put in place, because if you know your law, it's just a load of hogwash. I was trying to think of a polite word there.
Very polite, well done.
I've often sat in people's front rooms being their best friend, going, and they're going, oh, choice, and well, and you're like, it's on your website, because that's actually what the law says. So let's forget that and let's concentrate on what that person wants to do. But yeah, it's get the guidance. Page 19, section 38. Sorry, you can tell I was studying this, can't you?
Thank you for that, Liz. Ingrid, did you want to come back on that? You're on mute at the moment.
Yeah, I'm off mute now. I want to. Is there a way of stressing to parents of preschool children that special school isn't necessarily the safest place? And I think that you've got to be quite strong in your beliefs if you to say, no, I don't think I'm going to go with what's being presented to me as a safe option, because also I don't know if your child, well, for us, I was told for quite a long time that my son's behaviour was because I was a poor parent. So, I was already quite battered, and it's quite hard to fight back. And as Liz was saying earlier, the professional is advising you, and I just think that an inclusive education needs to be pushed as this is a safe option, because that's a thought of mine. Thanks.
Lovely, thank you. Is there anybody else who wants to ask any questions? Because if not, can I please? And it's particularly for Ingrid, but in relation to Wilf's journey, and I wonder whether you think that Wilf, having been included in secondary school, has given him the interest and the motivation to work, or whether that was more to do with seeing his brother work.
Well, his brother's younger, so
so it's not his brother.
No, it's just if you join society, you go to work. I'm only sorry that I ended up having to stop work when they were teenagers, because I couldn't balance everything. It would have been a stronger argument as we all go to work, but I did fall into a very traditional homemaker role. But I still used to say, when you grow up, you're going to be a man and you're going to go to work same as Dad. Charlie's going to go to the work same as Dad, but he's a fit, healthy man. He's got an awful lot to contribute, and that's a big factor too. But I'm also pleased that he works in a cafe, so it's very forward-facing. And I think the more people that see people, baristas like Wilf, baristering, and then are thinking, there is no reason why he shouldn't be working and connected and not shunted off into a day centre somewhere.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't know where to start really. Thank you, all three of you, or six of you, for that session. It was fantastic. I've heard you all speak before, and it never fails to impress me and inspire me. And thank you for being trailblazers and showing that inclusion can work for everyone. And that's what we need more of. So what I just wanted to say was that we've been asked all week what we're going to do next after the festival. So we've had the whole week of lots of wonderful presenters looking at different aspects of inclusion. And people have been saying, what's going to happen after the festival? What next? So we are definitely going to take some next steps. We've had lots and lots of ideas. So we've had ideas today. We've had ideas from all three of the presenters, and Liz particularly talking about the need for a national inclusion strategy, which we believe, it's kind of obvious that we need a national inclusion strategy because, as Julie said, she started off the week with some really quite hard statistics of where we're going on the special educational needs and disabilities in this country. And it feels kind of obvious to us that we need a national strategy, because it just doesn't seem acceptable that we've got this horrendous postcode lottery. The three presenters were in local authorities that had semblance of inclusion policies, and that was partly why it was possible. There was something about those local cultures and local systems. But why is it that if you'd lived somewhere else, it may not have been possible, and today it's even less possible? And my daughter's got Down syndrome, and she went through a completely inclusive system. But I know that if she were starting today, I don't think she would be included as she was back then. I think there'd be a fight to get her included. And certainly at secondary school, I think the notion is now that if you can't do GCSEs and get grades, then you can't really be here. So we've got a lot of work to do. But on the positive, we've got 30 years of experience that inclusion works. So we know it works, and it's really about how do we spread that knowledge and that put a fire in people's bellies and give people more information and opportunities. So one of the things that we're going to definitely do out of the week is to create a network. So we've had something like 400 people sign up this week. And we're going to be contacting everyone who's been here to ask them if they'd like to be part of an ongoing network to share what practice is good, you know, support each other across the country. We've had a lot of international guests, so that's really nice as well, that we can share stuff that's going on around the world. And one of the big ideas that's come up is that we should start with a charter. We should start by developing an inclusion charter that we would get as many people and organisations around the country to sign up to. I went to a meeting of the National Education Union last night, and it was a network, a national network of teachers who are inclusionists, and they're working in schools, you know, all around the country. And it was quite mind-blowing actually to see so many teachers across the country really committed to inclusion. So I think we'll link up with them and all sorts of other groups as well. So it's about developing a charter that we can get people to sign up to, and obviously trying to, and I don't know if campaign is quite the right word, but, you know, work as closely as we can with people in government to really try and say, can we help you to develop a national inclusion strategy? It doesn't need to be scary. You know, we want special schools to work with us. We want special schools to share their skills and their expertise. But this is about ultimately the human rights of young people, children and young people, to be included with their peers, to have those great role models, etc. So, you know, we will be doing a lot and we will be contacting people. So ultimately, you know, I think we all share that vision that we need a national strategy, a national policy, a national strategy and some action to stop this gradual sliding away from the notion of inclusion, which, by the way, is the law. So, you know, we've always got that central premise. So I just wanted to finish by saying that one of the biggest messages that have come out this week is that children are the secret ingredient to inclusion. I think every presenter has mentioned not only the benefits to other children and other young people and other families of inclusion, but it's also about how that, you know, will go on and build an inclusive society. But at the end of the day, it's children, and that's my experience too. I think, you know, working with children in the nursery years for many years as I did, I think we should have those children running the world, really, because the wisdom that they come with is enormous. And you know, Gordon Porter from Canada made a very emotional speech about children are the secret ingredient. And I think what that tells us is that adults, you know, every adult who's working in the SEN system, whether it's in schools, colleges, social care, health, we have got a responsibility to teach our children that difference is okay, that difference is brilliant, and difference is actually the norm, because we're all different. And if we're trying to teach children that difference is bad, you know, what damage are we doing to future generations? So children, the secret ingredient, is going to be one of our mottos. So thank you all for coming today.